Hey guys, welcome back to Children of Dionysus. My name is Laris Macario. I'm an award-winning actor and producer and online Shakespeare coach. Today I want to talk about something that I've been talking about with my clients that's actually acting related but not immediately acting related. That's going to have a huge benefit on the work that you do and the effect you have in the world as an artist. As a classically trained artist, as a movie and television artist, as a theater artist, specifically as a performing artist. Um, when I started as an actor, when I started coaching as well, I put a huge emphasis on just coaching and auditioning and doing the work. And I've been on hundreds of auditions, been in tons of movies and plays and things, produced plays, so on and so forth. And for a very long time in my life, the primary concern was just the work. I was very much obsessed with the work and the technique and the craft and all this other stuff. It's part of the reason why not only am I an actor myself, but I'm also a coach because I just love talking about this stuff and teaching about this stuff and it really does move me. It's beautiful and I want to do it for the rest of my life. Um, but I always sort of fell short of where my goals were and where I wanted to be. And ever since I really started coaching people and paying very close attention to them one on one and seeing sort of the things that they were struggling with, I was finding a very common like pattern with most other actors. One of those things is the actors tend to make the work their life as opposed to making it a part of their life. They make it their whole life. They don't necessarily live a life or everything kind of revolves around this. And if you want to be successful in anything, you have to be focused on that thing. But there is a difference between being focused on that thing, being driven and moving towards a goal, and then and between that and then not having anything else going on in your life, or sort of not taking care of the relationships, taking care of your health, taking care of these other aspects that actually give you the capacity and the energy to be able to actually pursue the craft itself. Which for me, I burned out a couple of times in my career because of this very thing. I started to practice recently. I live here in New York City, and I live very close to a park. I'm within walking distance. I'm about a block away from one of the parks here in the city. And a few months ago, I started actually walking. Like I just walk outside. And I started in the winter, obviously here in New York City, where the trees were barren and nothing was growing, and there were no animals out, and barely any birds, definitely no bees, no flowers, no nothing. And I would just walk. And it didn't matter how cold it was. It didn't matter if it was raining. It didn't matter if it was wet. It didn't matter. I just went out and I went for a walk. And initially it was like, okay, I'm just going for a walk. It doesn't really matter. It's not that big a deal. But eventually what started to happen is my body became reacclimated to being out in nature, a form of nature. And I started to notice that my thoughts became more fluid. I was more aware. I was more conscious. We're always looking at screens, these two-dimensional screens. It's not how we evolved. And I work from home and I work as a coach. And so I'm always looking at a screen, either my cell phone, which everybody's doing, or also like a screen and actually a camera or something, or this cell phone or this laptop, right? What I started to notice is when I looked out into nature, all of a sudden my gaze became bigger, right? And we actually evolved out in the plains. We evolved to be out in the woods. We evolved to be out in the open country. And we evolved to actually see a three-dimensional world, right? My eyes actually started to readjust, and then my brain, in a very real way, started to heal, I feel, right? We've been living in this technological world for a long time now with these little devices. Smartphones have been around for a long time now, 10 or 15 years or whatever it is. And it seems, I've spoken to a couple of actors, professional Broadway actor friends of mine, mentors, older actors and stuff like that. And it seems to me, and this is I've heard it from several people, and I've witnessed this myself, by the way, as a coach. It seems to me like our imagination and our world is getting much smaller. So we're looking at these phones with these algorithms that are basically feeding us the same thing over and over and over again, right? Our own beliefs. Our beliefs are never being challenged. We're not actually going out into the world and interacting with the world as we're meant to do. And so our worlds are getting smaller, and our dopamine has sort of been hijacked by this little thing. And I'm not saying that, the people in these corporations and stuff like that, they're nefarious or whatever. I don't know. They're doing their job, which is to keep us hooked on the devices, which is to keep our attention hooked on their platform, whatever it is. The technology is what it is. They hack the system. It is, fine. We as creative artists have a responsibility to say, hold on a second, is this thing that I'm doing actually good for me? Is this actually helping me in any way? Is this helping me? Is this feeding my imagination? Is this connecting me to nature, to source, which is actually where we get our inspiration from as artists? Whether you believe in a Judeo-Christian God or not is not the point. There's a universe, there's a source, there's something else outside of us that helps to inspire us and helps to feed our creativity. Going back to the story of the park when the weather broke here in New York City, which is maybe 3 weeks ago. And in New York, we say the weather breaks when winter ends, and all of a sudden, from one day to the next, basically all the flowers start blooming, and then there's bees pollinating flowers and stuff like that, and all and all of a sudden there's lush vegetation when there was barren for months. When the weather breaks, I started looking around and noticing all of the life that exists, right? How abundant nature is. How many bees there were, how many flowers there were, how much pollination, like pollen and stuff is just sort of in the air flying around. And we have cherry blossoms in the park as well. And you notice these beautiful pink flowers that are just blooming. The bark on the trees, the green grass, and then all of a sudden everyone comes out onto the park and it's just kind of hanging out there, which is a really cool thing. I really like that as well. So even the people become abundant. You forget in New York City how many people actually live here. You really only notice it when it gets warmer. Because in the winter, there's not that many people out on the street, believe it or not. It's actually there are parts of the city that are kind of like ghost towns in a very real way, in the doldrums of winter. But when the weather breaks, all of the people sort of come out, and you notice the life, and you notice how things are just sort of chaotic but flowing at the same time. Things feed one into the other. There's flow in nature, and ideally, acting should be flow, right? Like, you've probably noticed that when you're writing something, if you write, or when you paint, or if you sing, or if you play an instrument, and you're doing the thing, and all of a sudden you're just in it. And you're in it, and then 45 minutes sort of goes by, and you're like, where did the time go? But that's becoming less and less, I believe, because we're distracted by all these different devices and stuff, right? And look, I live in the modern world. I work on a laptop. I work, I use technology to feed myself and to pay my bills and stuff, and to be able to communicate my thoughts and the things that I believe and my skill set to other actors, right? This is what I do. But I also have to find time to go walk in the park for an hour, sometimes two, to just sit and stare at the river, because I live close to the river here, the Hudson River, which is technically an estuary, but that's besides the point. It's just stare and reset my mind. And this is something that I advise to all of my students. I say, it doesn't matter what you're doing, because everyone is busy, and we're Americans. We sort of fetishize working 90-hour weeks. It's like our thing, right? For better or for worse, we're a very prosperous country in many respects. For that reason, we have a very good work ethic. It's the Puritan thing. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. It's in the DNA of the country. It's been here since the beginning. It is what it is. And I love part of that. And I'm also an artist. I'm also a human being. And I also need to find time. And I tell my students to find time to be out in nature, especially if you live in a large city, especially if you live in a metropolitan area. So what I suggest to you is, if you can find time, not if, but you need to find an hour and a half and split it up into 30-minute increments per week. Treat it like going to the gym. Treat it like going to the gym. It's the same thing. Do I always feel like going to the gym? No. But I go to the gym regularly, 3 to 4 times a week, every single week, like clockwork. I don't skip the gym. I go. And I've been working out since I was 12. All right? And I'm in my 30s. Go find time to sit out in nature, whether that's the beach, whether that's a park, whether you live up in the mountains, whether you're out in the desert, and just be. No cell phone. I don't take a cell phone when I go to the park. No distractions, no book, no nothing. You just sit out in nature and you just exist. What you're going to find is you're going to get better ideas. You're going to be far more relaxed. You're going to be in a better mood. And you're going to figure out that art and nature are the same thing. That there is beauty out in nature. There is beauty in the way that things work. And you will be inspired to create better art. Because the highest form of art is merely imitating that which God made. I hope this helps. If you want to be the best actor in every room you step into, my name is Laris Macario. I am an award-winning actor and producer. As I said before, I am an online Shakespeare coach, and I can help you find your artistic voice, and I can help you share it with the world through the works of Shakespeare, because Shakespeare is the greatest playwright that ever existed. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.